magnificent March day for the 150th Newmarket Handicap. My name's Nigel Carmody. Well, the Newmarket, it's older than the Ashes and the VFA, the first established Australian rules competition here in Melbourne. And aren't the big handicaps so central to the fabric of racing in our country? You think of races like the Melbourne Cup here, the Doncaster in Sydney, the Stradbroke in Brisbane. They're true egalitarian Aussie races that give everyone from horse, rider, trainer and connections an equal footing and an equal chance for a shot at glory. So what's in store for us today in the 150th Newmarket? Well, it's headlined by I Wish I Win, who's got the Kiwi bloodlines but the Peter Moody polish. He looked every bit the flying machine when storming to second in the Lightning. Second up out of that race to here has been a winning formula in 5 of the last 12 years. That list includes Black Caviar, whose dream team reunites here.
And Bivouac on the outside, chiming in.
3-year-olds have a phenomenal association with this classic. It's the right time of year for them to test their mettle against the older sprinters, and the typical weight advantage has been a factor in victory for their age group 9 times this century. James Cummings hit with this formula thanks to his colt Bivouac 3 years ago. Today it's filly In Secret, so adept up the straight in winning the Coolmore against her own age, who seeks her place alongside Sunlight, Alingi and Co. It's a race with sky-high ratings. The build-up has been enormous. The 150th Newmarket Handicap, they are going to rumble down this straight. We cannot wait for a fantastic day.
The field is set to go. Ready, and they're racing.
By the time In Secret proved that she was up in the elite level of all the 3-year-olds in that season, performances not just in the Run to the Rose, but the Golden Rose, then Coolmore Day. By the time she's at that level, she's worthy of being considered as a candidate to win the time-honoured handicap against the older horses in the autumn.
In Secret won it.
Look, there aren't Group 1 sprint races for 3-year-olds in Australia in the autumn either, so our 3-year-old sprinters need to step up in the autumn against older horses, and I think that makes a really interesting viewing for the fans of our 3-year-old sprinters. They just have to test themselves against the older horses. Otherwise, they're in the paddock because there's no other top class elite race for them. But I think around that time in the lead up to the Coolmore and immediately following the Coolmore, she was the Newmarket runner for us, and her preparation in the autumn as a 3-year-old needed to be centred around that race. Jamie Carr had won the Lightning on Coolangatta. Despite having won the Lightning on Coolangatta, was still prepared to ride In Secret in the Newmarket for Godolphin, and such was her faith in the filly's chances of winning.
The 154th running of the Sires Produce Stakes, and the field is set. Ready to run. Stalls are back and racing. V8 back to 5th now, is going to perch behind the pace. They were followed by a Mur, a length and a half away. Fist of Fury, there's a fall. Flyball's gone there. Flyball's gone in the middle of the pack.
First of all, Jane, both the horses that the riders had come off, looks like they've come through unscathed.
Yeah, both horses have been caught out on track and returned to scale, and at this point in time we've seen them trotting round. Of course, proper procedure will take place in terms with the horses. They'll both be vetted to make sure that they have come through unscathed. Both Jamie Carr and Craig Williams are currently being attended to out on the track by the course doctor. We have heard from the stewards that both riders will be transported to hospital, so at this point in time we're in a delay in terms of the running of race number 5. Interesting enough though, we do have a couple of runners in the Group 1 that both Craig Williams and Jamie Carr were supposed to ride. In Secret, the big one of those, particularly considering she's down in the weight.
Yeah, we've seen James Cummings and Sean Keogh from Godolphin. We're actually in conversation with Jamie Steer, Racing Victoria's integrity manager, and some of the stewards, just in regards to, I think, what the options might be given the 51.5 kilos that their filly had been allotted, perhaps who the riders that are available are, and whether they may have to look at a scenario where In Secret carries extra weight so a jockey can take that ride with, you'd imagine, Jamie Carr not able to for the Yulong Stud Newmarket a little bit later on.
On the day to lose Jamie Carr, you know, that was emotional, and that was difficult for us, and we felt for Jamie, you know, and her health. And Craig Williams fell in the same race. It was a VRC size Produce, a fall that both jockeys were taken straight to hospital from.
Matty, bit going on in the last 15 minutes. First of all, can you tell us about both Jamie and Craig?
Well, first of all, with Jamie, she's taken a pretty severe knock to the head, and that was sort of unconscious for a period of time. But thankfully, she's conscious now, and albeit very, very dazed, and but responding to the paramedics over there. She'll be heading straight to Royal Melbourne, and we'll take it from there. She appears as though everything else appears okay, just a concern with the knock to the head.
Craig, speaking of issues with his elbow and shoulder, can you expand on that in any way, shape or form?
I think he's definitely got a shoulder injury to some degree, whether it's a collarbone or a shoulder. But Craig was conscious the whole way through, and you know, fairly comfortable, given once he had a bit of treatment. But yeah, definitely got a shoulder injury, but I think he's got some concussion as well. So let's keep our fingers crossed and see what the next couple of hours bring.
Spot on, Matt. As always, appreciate your updates.
Good on you. Thanks, Nigel.
You just don't know on the day. You don't know how good or bad it might be, and it didn't look good, and you hear things, but you've got a race coming up, a race that In Secret's whole preparation had evolved around, and so we had to press on and get back to business and find a rider in a field, a 17-horse field with 51.5. It's so lucky for us that Dean Holland was ready to go in the locker room. We tossed him the colours, and he was so composed. He emerged from the room, ready to go, ready to talk about the filly. He advised me that he'd already seen her from afar a few times, but we went through some replays, the significant replays for the type of ride that we needed on the day. I took him through Dominic Byrne's speed map, and he was not overwhelmed at all. He was so composed. He took it all in. I could sense him absorbing the replays and what we were really asking from him as far as how he would ride the filly.
Here's In Secret, Dean Holland, a pickup ride. Goes in.
And he just rode that horse to plan A, and he rode it to perfection.
Ready, and they're racing. In Secret away only fairly. Front page began well, showing Speed Baller on the outside, and also Marzu in the red jacket out very deep on the course, led the field with the Astrologist. Over on the inside, Snapper is the leader from Front Page, Rockin' Horse, Ballanipatina. Swats, that's in the next line from Chain of Lightning, Star Patrol. Then came Private Eye. In Secret's third last in that pack over on the flat side rail from Guananoches, and also September Run coming virtually up the outside. The Astrologist led Marzu, and then Lofty Strike Baller, and I Wish I Win is last in that group of 5 coming up the outside onto the course proper.
So what Dean was able to do was to get right up until 200 metres to go, that plan exactly perfect. And not many Newmarkets are actually won with 200, 250 to go. But when Dean was able just to get her to cruise up to that gap with her 51.5 on her back and burst through, the race was over.
To go from Front Page, Private Eye, then I Wish I Win the outside. In Secret the leader, 100 metres to go. Lofty Strike is flashing down the outside, but it's the filly In Secret holding on. In Secret from the Newmarket, In Secret from Lofty Strike, and I Wish I Win. They were followed by Private Eye or Marzu from Guananoches, the Astrologist. Front Page.
In the field the size as it was, with the occasion, the short preparation time mentally for Dean to think it all through, was amazing when you look back on it. And we shouldn't in the moment even overlook it, but certainly not now with the benefit of hindsight. To remain so composed and to deliver on the plan was outstanding. She burst to the front, 250 to go, and the race was really shot to pieces. A 3-year-old jumped out of the ground and made it a 3-year-old Quinella, Lofty Strike, and I Wish I Win filled the place getters. This is a serious horse race, full of depth, and Dean was able to take hold of on the best filly, but and take advantage of the light weight with which he was riding. But it was it was a classic ride, and a dramatic finish, and I think a great memory to be able to share with Dean's story and with Dean's family.
Dean, almost 13 years after your first Group 1, I don't imagine driving to Flemington today you thought number 2 was going to be coming your way this afternoon. Take us back a couple of hours and what unfolded to find yourself in the pilot seat of the Newmarket winner?
Yeah, look, first of all, the last thing I wanted to do was carry on today, win, lose or draw. It's very unfortunate what happened to Jamie and Willow, and my thought goes out to them. I'm just the lucky one that was able to ride light today and picked up the rod on, you know, one of Australia's best sprinters. So James had no other options, unfortunately, but I was the one with the lightweight, and look, he had faith in me. He talked me through the race beforehand, and just showed me a few replays and things like that. And you know, she has a tendency this prep just to be a little bit slow away. And he said if she does, just leave her alone and trust that she's got a good turn of foot. And I rode her accordingly, and she was too good.
What were you thinking at the 300 when suddenly it seemed like you were on your own and the race was almost yours?
Yeah, I don't think I pushed the button too soon, but everything opened up, and everything around me was under pressure, and I found it was time to push the button. She accelerated really well, but it's very lonely out in front there at the 200 down the straight, so I wasn't sure if anything was coming, but she was very tough and rock fit horse, and like I said, probably the best horse in the race.
You're a pretty relaxed character and you ply your trade right across Victoria, but was there a sense of pressure going in given what you'd inherited?
Absolutely, yeah. I kept it together pretty well. We've got our valets in there, Colin Dean and his son Possum, and everyone gets around each other, and look, they kept me pretty relaxed, and it gave me confidence that James was relaxed as well. I haven't ridden for him before, but he had enough confidence in me, so like I said, we got the job done, so that's the main thing.
Dean, you've handled the moment beautifully on all sides. Congratulations on another Group 1.
Thanks very much.
He spoke beautifully after the win. He didn't get carried away at all by the moment. He showed a great amount of empathy for his fallen riders, and the riders in that Melbourne jockeys room they're unbelievably thoughtful amongst each other. They're a real team in there, and they might be riding against each other each week, but they do have a great amount of care for each other and their safety. And they were under the pump at the time, sort of in the lead up to that race meeting, and then afterwards there had been a few falls, so there was that extra tension. But it said a lot about Dean at the time, because straight away he was thinking about those fallen riders and didn't get carried away with that moment all being about him. It was something that in the moment he could actually think about someone else, and you know, the circumstances that led him to being there. And he just sort of embraced it and made the most of it. What I learned from the day would be something that Dean taught me himself, which was that in a moment of duress, under pressure, to keep a level head and to not get carried away. The fall of Jamie and Craig was emotionally charged, and yet, like I mentioned earlier, in a clinical way, we've got to press on, and there's business at hand, and we've got a job to do. And when I pulled Dean aside and we were in a quiet room off to the, it's exactly the way Dean was. He was ready to get on with it. He was businesslike. He was already partially prepared, but willing to concentrate and to absorb the information he needed to absorb. And he demonstrated that he'd done that so beautifully with the perfect ride. I guess in exactly those trying circumstances, to keep a level head has an incredible amount of value, and those little things make all the difference when we're under the most pressure of all. Well, every time I revisit the race, it gives me goosebumps. I think it still will in 10 years' time. I think best memory's got to be holding the trophy next to someone as humble and yet capable as Dean. And the worst memory's got to be the realisation that he's no longer with us and that he was lost to us in the most tragic of circumstances.
He is a beautiful horse and he is lovely and relaxed. It's a great sign.